I want to take a break from smoking weed, smoking marijuana, but I'm addicted to it. Any advice, any tips on how to break my addiction?
Isn't that interesting? Because everyone says that marijuana or smoking weed is not addictive. But then some people say they are addicted to it. So if it's not physically addictive, like nicotine, for example, is physically addictive, then why would someone be addicted to smoking marijuana? Why do they feel the need to smoke? Well, it's obvious to me. It's their best form, safest form of anesthesia for their mental and emotional pain, right? I'll give you an example, okay? I was doing a physical detoxification, an intestinal or colon or large intestinal cleanse. I was flushing out tons of accumulated poison, and undigested food was coming out of my body from who knows how long ago. And as I was doing that, I felt amazing. I mean, every day I just felt more and more fantastic. Of course, I know how to cleanse the body without cleansing reactions. You know, the books I read all said you'd be sick, but I figured out how to do it without getting sick. And I just felt better every day, waking up with more energy every day. And then one day, I didn't have any cravings for any bad food, by the way. And then one day, I went to see a movie. And when I came out of the movie, I just had this feeling that I wanted to have a hot chocolate from Starbucks. Yay, Starbucks. No, they didn't pay me for that. So I wanted to have this hot chocolate. Now I didn't go act on the impulse. I didn't go act on the craving, which is different than a desire in how I define these two words. They're different. A desire is when your body says, I need this. Whereas a craving is spawned by something else. It's more an addictive movement. I know I don't want to do that. It's against the program I've created. It's not good for my body, but I have this feeling to do it. What the heck? So what caused the craving? I felt a little bit of underlying sadness that was triggered by the movie. Something in the movie brought up this old sadness that was already there in me, and my programmed way to deal with sadness was to drink hot chocolate from Starbucks. Anesthesia. Did I go drink the hot chocolate? No. I did the 7 steps to reprogramming yourself sitting right there in my car out in the movie theater, and I erased the sadness. Guess what happened to that feeling to go and eat the hot chocolate? It disappeared as soon as the sadness was gone. I think that probably happens to people who smoke weed, that they feel sad or they feel angry or they feel anxious or nervous or afraid or panic or whatever they feel that's uncomfortable. And so then they smoke and they feel better. And that's what's really causing them to feel addicted. Like they can't stop, because if they stop, they'll be in pain. And so they just keep getting these cravings. So we have to eliminate the cravings. And I'm really giving you an insight into my how to overcome addictions without willpower program. It's a 30-day program that eliminates addiction, all addiction, and it works on every kind of addiction, any kind of addiction. Most addictions have some sort of physical component, but not all of them. I mean, does shopping addiction have a physical component? No, it's mental and emotional, maybe spiritual. So that's why my program addresses all 4 parts of the human being. So when you come to the idea that someone's addicted to smoking weed or smoking marijuana, it's probably in the emotional, mental, and spiritual realm that we're going to find the cause of the cravings. See, the basic concept of my How to Overcome Addictions Without Willpower program is that an addiction is when you do something you know you don't want to do and you can't stop yourself. Like my aunt who liked to smoke 1 cigarette a day. She didn't want to stop. That was just part of how she enjoyed life. Who could blame her? Who could judge her? No one should judge that. Now, if she said, I can't stop my 1 cigarette a day, even though I want to, now it becomes an addiction. It's because we are suffering with this incredible disempowerment that we can't stop doing something bad for us. And it's this super disempowering experience. And when you get your power back, it's amazing that you're no longer addicted. Can you imagine being addicted to nothing? That's me. I did it. I even removed addiction to food. All of it. I figured it out. It worked. It worked for me, and it's worked for many of my clients. Now, I say many of them have a physical component, but all addiction that I've seen generally has a component of negative emotions that are actually generated by negative thoughts in the unconscious mind. Like my example of the sadness and wanting to drink chocolate, right? I think we can all relate to that example. So if someone has an addiction like marijuana, which is not supposed to be physically addictive, then it's very likely that there's an emotional, mental, or spiritual component causing the cravings. And that's the next major tenet of my program, is that if you eliminate all the cravings, you don't have an addiction anymore. See, the problem is that your cravings get so huge that you can't override them with your willpower. Your willpower is strong, but can you overcome these giant cravings consistently for the rest of your life? Well, not usually. Sometimes people can, and they do that by getting into groups often and talking about their problems and reminding themselves over and over and over again that if they give into their craving, they'll ruin their life. It's called AA, right? And that's one way of doing it. But what if you could actually erase, and I'm not knocking AA, it's amazing. I'm just saying, what if you could actually erase the cause of the craving? Every AA meeting I went to as part of my research for my program had the same formula. Someone got up and shared that they have massive emotional pain, which is why they drink too much alcohol and messed up their life, and now they just live with their pain. Well, I'm saying don't live with your pain, erase the pain. Don't use drugs to knock it out. I'm not saying you shouldn't have any anesthesia either. I'm saying make it your goal to eliminate the pain so that you don't need the drugs anymore, right? And maybe at first you can reduce from the bad drugs that really mess you up to less bad drugs, right? Like you can go from cocaine to coffee, right? They're both stimulants. One's not nearly as bad for you. Do you get what I'm saying? Until you don't even crave coffee because you've eliminated the real cause of why you have those cravings in the first place. Now, sometimes it's easy, like my example with the hot chocolate. One thing of sadness, one layer of sadness, you erased it with the 7 steps to reprogramming yourself. That was it. No more craving for hot chocolate. One time I was doing a super health program and I got this craving for pizza, a specific pizza that I got when I was a kid. You see, when I was a kid, growing up, my parents used to starve us. For 4 years, for the last week of every month, there was no food in our house. And if we asked for food, we'd be threatened with our lives or even potentially beaten up, depending on what age. But I didn't get beat up during those 4 years, but I was frightened to death often with a big scary fist if I even mentioned that I was hungry. And so I would lay on the couch in pain with my stomach hurting, and then I would go and check the fridge, and I know it sounds awful, but to me it's funny now because I've erased so much of the pain that you know that you've really gotten somewhere when you can laugh at your tragedies, right? So I would go check the fridge and check the cupboard for food, even though it was empty, 20 times a day, right? It's like, I know there's something there, but I just have nothing else I can do but just go open it over and over. So this goes on for 4 years. Then I figured out how to get a Costco card before it was open to the public and get enough food to last a whole month, and we stopped starving. Well, the year after that, my dad started dealing drugs instead of just doing drugs. So he had some more money. So then when we were really hungry, he would order us a pizza. Well, he would tell us we could order a pizza and he would pay for it. And we always got the exact same thing. And so what happened was I got programmed with, when I get really hungry and I feel really sad that my family doesn't care about me because they wouldn't feed me for 4 years, that pizza is what I get. And so I was having the craving for that specific pizza. It had to be that company and that specific type to a T. And if it wasn't that one, it wasn't going to resolve the craving. And this craving went on for 3 days in a row without going away. It was insane. Now, how much willpower do you have that you could withstand this super strong craving? For how many days can you go before you just say, screw it, I give up. I'm just going to eat the damn thing. And then what? Then work on erasing the cause. And it was a lot of sadness. I mean, it was layers of pain of feeling, hungry and then not being cared about and getting yelled at for asking for food. And as I went through the layers and layers and layers and layers, I finally erased them all. And then I never had that craving for that food ever again. So I overcame the addiction to that specific kind of pizza by addressing the real root cause. And so if you have an addiction to smoking marijuana or smoking weed, you've got to address the real root cause. So let's think about it. What is the emotion that you feel that then comes a craving? So first there's this emotion, and then you have a craving. What is the emotion? Think back in time to yesterday. What did you feel, and then you felt the craving? Was it anxiety? Was it anger? Sadness? What was it? Once you can see that there was a negative emotion and then a craving, you have found the first layer, and maybe the only layer sometimes, of the cause of the cravings on a mental emotional level. Then you can use the 7 steps to reprogramming yourself to erase the negative emotion that causes the craving, just like I did, and then you won't have the addiction anymore. It's really that simple. The hard part is, you've got to learn the 7 steps, which is even not that hard. It's only a 3-day course you can take at home right now on demand. Learn the whole thing in 2 days if you're a really good student. You might have to watch it a few times because there's a lot of new information. Most people have never heard most of what's in the course, but if you've taken a lot of courses and read a lot of books, the first day will have a lot of fundamentals that you might already know. Then you're going to get to the design of the human mind. Then you're going to learn the 7 steps on the first day, and you can start erasing the layers causing your addiction. And specifically with addiction, you ask, what is the emotion I feel before the cravings, and you erase them all. And then secondly, you ask yourself, what is the thought that occurred before the craving, and erase them all. And here's the third big question for addiction. How does it make you feel that you have the addiction? How does it make you feel that you're addicted to weed? Do you feel angry, sad, disappointed, frustrated? You hate yourself? What do you feel really? How does it make you feel in your body? You have to go in your body. You can't stay up here and be cerebral. Take a deep breath, go down in your body. How does it make you feel that you have this addiction? There's something there, right? Where in your body is it? What's the size and shape of it? That is the cause of the craving. At least it's the first layer. Learn the 7 steps, erase that, and then make some comments about how you got over it, okay? I would love that. You have no idea how much I love it because I know what it's like to have an addiction and then get rid of it forever. I've only given you a couple examples, and it's very empowering. So I'd love to have that happen for you. Just go ahead and make some comments when you do make that happen. Oh, and if you want to learn the 7 steps, there should be a link below. Just click on the link and you can learn more about it and how it works and so on. Man, this is a really exciting topic for me because addiction is just so awful. And if you can get rid of that, I mean, your whole life will be so much better. My name's Arnoux. Thank you for hanging out with me today, and I will see you real soon.